Some people argue that playing team sports provides people with more benefits as opposed to participating in individual sports. Personally, I believe that both types of sports can provide a range of benefits to people, and it depends on what benefits each individual wishes to achieve as to which sport they should choose to play. On the one hand, team sports, such as football and basketball, provide a number of benefits to those who play. For example, team sports give players the opportunity to develop interpersonal skills, like teamwork and communication skills, which will not only help people in their day-to-day social interactions but also benefit them in their workplace. In addition, team sports also offer players the chance to develop a sense of unity, friendship, and sportsmanship between teammates, which can really add value to people's lives by making them feel a part of something. On the other hand, individual sports, like tennis and swimming, also have their merits. When someone plays an individual sport, it usually gives them more opportunities to enhance their personal skills, such as being able to manage emotions, cope with stress, and build confidence and self-esteem. When people are playing an individual sport, they usually have no one else to rely on for support during the game or match, and therefore, individuals will need to develop a strong mindset to be able to deal with and overcome any setbacks they may face. Individual sports also provide better opportunities for people to challenge themselves by setting goals and achieving personal bests. Overall, I feel that all sports offer great benefits for people's mental and physical health, and that people should choose whatever sport they are most interested in playing. In recent years, there have been a number of everyday problems that people in big cities have to cope with. This essay will discuss two major problems: pollution and information overload, which I believe should lead governments to encourage people to move to regional areas. These days, increased levels of pollution have been a great cause for concern among residents of big cities. Due to high volumes of traffic, large quantities of pollutants are being released into the atmosphere, causing the degradation of air quality, which is said to be a significant contributor to various types of respiratory disease, such as lung cancer. Additionally, people in big cities are being bombarded with too much information from the media, including TV, social media, and advertising, with a large proportion of this information being fake or exaggerated. This can lead to confusion or, in some cases, social anarchy. In my opinion, governments should do what they can to encourage city residents to move to regional areas. Firstly, it will reduce the number of vehicles in cities, which will definitely reduce the levels of air pollution, which is hazardous to the health of citizens. Furthermore, fewer people living in big cities will relieve the pressure on the housing supply, where many people are forced to live in small, uncomfortable spaces. Studies have shown that people's living spaces have a direct impact on their mental health and how they perform at work. In conclusion, severe air pollution and a bombardment of information are among the most serious problems facing city residents nowadays, and personally, I feel that authorities should encourage people to relocate to other areas to live. It is often argued that maintaining public libraries is no longer necessary in today's world because the development of computer technology has allowed us to access a great deal of information on the internet more efficiently. While I accept that there are clear benefits of online libraries over public libraries, I believe that it is still worth spending money on maintaining public libraries. There are two main advantages of online sources of information. Firstly, online sources can store a huge amount of information that is greater than any physical library. This allows researchers to easily get the information they need without having to travel to a local library. Furthermore, people can look for information on the internet whenever they want, while most libraries can only be visited during several hours per day. This is therefore particularly beneficial to those who have a hectic schedule and cannot visit these places during the operating hours. However, the preservation of local libraries is still necessary because of their distinguishing features which cannot be substituted by online sources. Libraries, in some countries, are still one of the most popular means of accessing information among senior citizens, regardless of the availability of online information. In fact, most elderly people these days are technophobes and therefore physical libraries are their preferred option. Furthermore, public libraries can be considered a more reliable source of information compared with online sources. Indeed, there's an abundance of inaccurate and unreliable information on the internet, while libraries have proved to be a more reliable information source, with the information being carefully categorized by library staff members. In conclusion, despite the benefits of computer technology in providing information, in my opinion, there are good grounds for rejecting the view that spending money on maintaining public libraries is unnecessary. Holding business meetings and training via the internet has gained enormous popularity in recent years. Although the drawbacks of this are varied, in my opinion, the benefits are greater. On the one hand, conducting meetings and training sessions online may have some major disadvantages. The first drawback is the technical limitations that participants may have, which may reduce the effectiveness of discussions or meetings. For example, the elderly may find it hard to understand and make use of latest programs and software, while other participants may lose track of the progress of a meeting due to a slow internet connection or platform malfunction. The second disadvantage is the lack of face-to-face interaction, which is often considered as the key to a successful meeting or training session. While online attendance may be easily distracted by other interesting, yet non-productive online activities, the physical presence of hosts or trainers would no doubt provide a more engaging and active meeting or training session. However, I am convinced that the advantages of virtual meetings are more significant. Compared to traditional face-to-face meetings, those held online consume much less time and money. In the past, attendants had to make long trips just to meet with other employees from other branches. However, with online meetings, all team members can join the conference from any place, without the need to travel. Another advantage of online communication is that members who join meetings and training can share and organize files and presentations easily and conveniently. The files can also be edited or revised by other members, facilitating collaboration within the whole team. In conclusion, it seems that the merits of virtual meetings and trainings are more significant than the downsides. Scientific research plays an important role in the development of humanity. Some people think that the responsibility for conducting and managing it should be taken by governments, and not by private companies. Personally, I believe that both governments and private businesses should have the right and duty to carry out research. I believe that governments should play the leading role in performing research due to a number of reasons. Firstly, scientific research is the key to finding solutions to the pressing concerns of society. Thorough medical research, for example, needs to be conducted by governments to develop vaccines against potential epidemics. Research into renewable energies is also crucial to deal with global warming. These kinds of research require a great deal of spending, which can only be afforded by the government. In addition, scientific studies controlled by governments will ensure that reliable and ethical methods are used, and minimize the risk of these studies being used for criminal activity. For instance, studies related to nuclear power or weapons must be carried out or supervised by governmental organizations to protect a country from terrorism or other warfare. However, private companies can do research which is not carried out by governments. In fact, many useful scientific discoveries have been made by private institutions. To illustrate, The invention of the iPhone by Apple, a corporation in the US, began the era of smartphones and facilitated modern forms of interaction between people all over the world. Furthermore, encouraging profit-driven companies to conduct scientific investigations will help them develop their own products and create competition in the marketplace. Society will therefore benefit from new inventions and better products. In conclusion, although governments should control and carry out major scientific studies, private companies should not be deprived of the right to do research. Nowadays, an increasing number of people are concerned about measures to ensure road safety. However, whether imposing stricter penalties for driving offenses is the only way to protect people is still a controversial issue. Although I agree that harsher punishments can act as an effective way to deter people from committing road offenses, I believe that there are better methods to protect the welfare of road users. Firstly, it is obvious that the implementation of rules can act as a deterrent to would-be lawbreakers. For example, in Vietnam, motorists not wearing a helmet can be fined with $20 to $40. And thus he will be in fear of facing further punishment and avoid committing another offense. Furthermore, more stringent punishments for traffic crimes can be an efficient way to reduce traffic accidents. For instance, in the past, China witnessed a significant number of annual road casualties when it had very loosely enforced regulations. However, once harsher laws related to road safety were implemented in 2009, there was a notable reduction in the total number of traffic accidents. This is not to say that only by using stricter rules can we enhance the safety of our roads. It is true that there are still other effective measures to ensure people's safety, such as heightening people's awareness through the media about the consequences of committing driving offenses, or promoting the use of public transport systems such as buses or trains. To achieve the best results, the most effective method may be to combine all the aforementioned ideas. In conclusion, I believe that stricter punishments are not the only way to deal with minimizing driving offenses. Measures, including raising people's awareness and promoting the use of public transport systems, can also contribute to maintaining road safety. Nowadays, it seems that families tend to eat together less frequently. This essay will put forward some explanations for this trend and an analysis of the potential impacts. The fact that family members choose not to eat with each other can be attributable to two reasons. Firstly, since people these days tend to have heavier workloads and more hectic schedules than in the past, sitting down to share a meal with their family members might not be a convenient choice. Instead, these individuals usually eat out with their friends, colleagues, or business partners near their workplace, which can be more suitable for their timetable. Secondly, the fast food culture of modern life can change people's eating habits because fast food can be found everywhere and is usually an inexpensive food choice. For instance, young people in Vietnam often grab a quick meal after a busy day at work or school, which leads them to skipping meals with their family when they go home. The trend has both positive and negative impacts on people. In terms of the benefits, people are able to be much more flexible with their time. They will not have to show up at a fixed hour to have meals with their family and can eat whatever and whenever they want. However, in terms of the negative effects, this can lead to a weaker family bond. If a family continuously eats separately, family members may not be able to share their thoughts, feelings with each other, and therefore may feel isolated from each other. This will result in a lack of deep family connection. In conclusion, The tendency of family members eating separately is mainly caused by the difference in their schedules of the preference to eat fast food, which can have both positive and negative impacts. These days, formal academic qualifications are more highly appreciated than life experience or personal qualities when it comes to the recruitment process. There are many reasons for this, and in my opinion, this is a positive development. The main reason for this tendency is that academic degrees are considered a tool to measure the level of knowledge that students are capable of. To be more specific, to achieve a good degree in most universities, students need to pass many examinations focusing on testing their knowledge and take part in practical training courses. These factors ensure that students have gained sufficient in-depth knowledge in the field that the company is looking for. That is why recruiters place higher value on employers holding formal academic qualifications. Whereas, in terms of people having life experience or personal qualities, these people are likely to lack a suitable amount of academic knowledge in their field, and therefore, they need to be trained for a long time by employers. This results in the reluctance of employers to hire them for vacant positions. This trend, therefore, will bring about some positive effects on society as a whole. Students will be motivated to pursue tertiary education for the sake of their better career prospects. By attending university, students can gain insights into their chosen field and have a chance to compete with others. As for society, thanks to this trend, there will be more and more people entering university, which will contribute to a society of more well-informed and educated citizens. In conclusion, employers prefer people with better qualifications because qualifications are to prove that their holders are sufficiently trained at university. I think that there are many positives for both students and society when employers place emphasis on formal academic qualifications instead of life experience or personal qualities. It is a controversial issue as to whether newly built houses should be designed in the same style as existing homes in the same area, or whether the residents should have permission to construct their houses in a style of their own preference. My view is that people should be given the permission to build their houses to their own design, as long as these designs satisfy all necessary safety requirements. On the one hand, there are some reasons why all buildings in a particular area should have the same style. Firstly, when houses look similar, it will enhance a sense of community and equality within a residential area. This is because a house often reflects the wealth and social status of its owner. If a house looks older, smaller, and less attractive than others, the people living there may feel inferior and less confident when socializing with their neighbors. In contrast, a house which stands out in the neighborhood could potentially make its owner the target of gossip or burglary. Secondly, when houses share a common design, it will be easier for the local government to supervise the process of construction and to make sure that these buildings are safe for both the inhabitants and neighbors. On the other hand, it should be people's right to build their own house in their own style. A good building should satisfy all three principles of durability, utility, and beauty. It should not only be strong in design and be built to last a long time, but also inspire the people who live there by its aesthetic design. It is extremely important for a person to live in a house that they feel comfortable with, as it largely affects their spirit. Furthermore, if each house in an area is built in a unique style, it will greatly contribute to the diverse image of the town. In conclusion, even though there are certain justifications for houses in an area to be constructed in the same style, I am of the opinion that governments should permit people to build their houses according to their own ideas. People have different views regarding the importance of a building's function in comparison to its exterior appearance. In my opinion, I agree with the idea that a construction's purpose should be more highly valued than the appearance for a number of reasons. On the one hand, it cannot be denied that a magnificent-looking structure can bring a wide range of benefits that should be taken into consideration. Firstly, it can remarkably raise the value of a building, especially a commercial or shopping center, as it looks more attractive, professional and high class. The more customers are attracted to the building, the more profit it can potentially generate, which can benefit the building's owners enormously. Secondly, a building with an aesthetic design can contribute a lot to the appearance of a city, and may make it become one of the most distinguishing places on the map. A lot of cities nowadays which are well known for their architectural beauty have become popular destinations for tourists. On the other hand, the purpose of a building, in my opinion, is the key consideration when designing it. There are a variety of different building types, such as office buildings, commercial buildings, shopping centers, hospitals, and schools. Each one of these has its own purpose and a particular interior design to serve those purposes. Therefore, only by focusing on the functionality of a design first can we bring out the best use of a construction. In addition, people use a particular place because of what it offers inside, not merely because of what it looks like on the outside. For example, if a company intends to erect a new office building, they will tend to choose the design based on the inner working spaces to enhance the operation of the staff and the enterprise. In conclusion, while the exterior of a building is an important factor, I believe its function should receive greater attention. It is argued by some people that local literature is of greater importance in children's education compared to foreign literature. From my perspective, I disagree with this view since both types of literature play equal roles in the development of children. On the one hand, locally written works come with numerous benefits to students. Firstly, these pieces of art can enrich students' skills to use their own language. Indeed, through learning literature of their mother tongue, students can learn the art of using the language, such as the flexibility in the vocabulary highlights used, the syntax of sentences, different ways to convey ideas. Hence, linguistic knowledge will gradually be built up and benefit the students not only in their study but also in social communication. Secondly, national literary works give students an insight into their own culture. For example, through traditional literature, namely fairy tales, legends, and fables, students can become familiar with their traditions, native terms, and also national values which have been passed down from generation to generation. As a result, they will naturally develop a sense of national identity and patriotism. On the other hand, studying foreign literature is also advantageous for the following reasons. To begin with, it gives learners opportunities to expand their horizons by showing them a bigger picture of the outside world. Having access to foreign historical events and cultures, commentaries on politics, society, and stereotypes in literature from countries abroad will foster students' awareness of the diversity of the world. Additionally, the students will be equipped with a broader range of knowledge to help them be more prepared for the globalized world that we are living in today. To be more specific, the students will have a grasp of the culture of foreign countries and how to adapt themselves in terms of manners, customs, or behaviors if they live in that new environment or dealing with foreigners. In conclusion, it seems to me that there is a need to teach both local and foreign literature at schools so that students can develop comprehensively Museums and art galleries have played a major role in preserving and conveying historical values for a long time. While many people suggest that they should focus purely on displaying works that represent the nation's culture and history, others with contradicting views affirm that international works are also of great worth. Personally, I think both viewpoints are equally valid. On the one hand, there are reasons why it is believed that artifacts and works of national value should be given priority. Firstly, museums and art galleries should be places that honor indigenous history and culture. By going to these museums and galleries, people will gain a deeper understanding of their nation, along with the golden ages and hard times that the country has been through. The exhibitions therefore serve an educational purpose as they instill patriotism and promote a sense of national pride in the citizens of that country. Apart from that, such places also help to preserve traditional and historical values. In the 21st century, many minority ethnic groups are in grave danger of losing their culture, and therefore, the display of their works and artifacts will help to preserve their culture and the cultural diversity of a nation. On the other hand, showing international works of art has several merits. Works from other parts of the world help to diversify the content of museums and art galleries. Admittedly, even though the value of museums and art galleries cannot be denied, their failure in adopting changes and updating collections has discouraged people from visiting these places. For that reason, international works will add appeal and aid museums and galleries in attracting more visitors. Furthermore, if museums display international works, people will have more chance to gain knowledge and insight into other cultures as well. In conclusion, the ultimate goal of museums and galleries is to spread knowledge and wonder far and wide. Therefore, my suggestion is that local artifacts and works should be prioritized, while those of other nations can still be exhibited, but in separate museums and galleries. Opinions diverge on the necessity of funding cultural activities. While some claim it is an unnecessary investment, others believe both citizens and cultures would benefit if governments were to provide financial support for art and culture. I will discuss both views and state my own opinion in this essay. On the one hand, many people oppose investing in cultural activities because there are more serious issues to address. The deterioration of transport infrastructure in many cities, for example, is the major reason for the increased number of traffic accidents. Using money for the construction of new roads and highways would bring about immediate effects and save thousands of lives. In addition, nations across the globe are facing many environmental problems that require urgent attention, namely pollution and natural resource depletion. National leaders, therefore, should join forces with scientists to combat these issues by allocating financial resources to the development of renewable and environmentally friendly sources of energy. There is no point in spending money on cultural activities before ensuring a safe and clean environment for citizens. Advocates of art and culture, on the other hand, argue that cultural activities play an important role in people's lives. Cultural events, like Tet holiday or Christmas, are occasions when family members gather together, which helps to strengthen the sense of family and community and further enriches people's lives. Moreover, funding these activities helps to preserve cultural diversity, especially in such a globalized world where so much culture is being lost and forgotten. The Vietnamese government, for instance, has constructed many museums that solely exhibit examples of ethnic minority culture, whose populations are decreasing at an alarming rate. In conclusion, I believe that cultural activities are of great significance and require attention and financial support from governments. However, it is also the government's duty to address issues in transportation and the environment to protect citizens' lives and maintain a healthy environment for people to live. In this modern era of continual scientific and technological advancement, artists are still gaining a lot of respect from people the world over. There are a number of things about life that the arts can teach us that science and technology fail to. Many forms of art, especially literature, can deliver messages about the appreciation of what we have in life as well as life itself. Hundreds of literary works depict misery, misfortune and sorrow that still exist in life today. And this sends a strong message to those who do not appreciate their lives. The Goldfinch, for example, which narrates a story about the miserable life of the main character after the unfortunate death of his mother, makes us wonder whether we have become heartless toward our own loved ones. I doubt that there are any technologies in the world that could manage to convey such a powerful message. Arts teach us to cherish the beauty of culture and is the fuel for our spiritual lives. This is extremely important in a world where science and technology seem to fade our belief in the gravity of culture in daily life. The connection between art and culture is boundless, and traditional music and ancient paintings can remind us of where we came from and who we are. That is to say, our cultural identity is preserved in various forms of art. Although science and technology advance our understanding of all things and better our lives, arts can touch us to a much deeper extent, help us value what we have, and remind us of the significance of our culture. In recent years, there has been a growing tendency for tourists to travel to remote locations and communities on organized tours. This has some positive impacts on the local people, but I think the detrimental effects on the environment are more significant and that the issue is more of a negative development. The financial and socio-cultural benefits for the locals in remote areas are evident. Tourists visiting these regions have a high demand for goods and services, and are mostly willing to pay higher than average prices. This helps to boost local economies in remote areas and eventually enhance living standards of the local people. Regarding the socio-cultural aspects, travelers from different cultures can provide ethnic people in remote areas who are almost completely isolated from the outside world with a lot of experiences through their interactions with one another, which can help these local residents to broaden knowledge about a more civilized society. However, the hordes of tourists to remote regions still leave severe impacts on the environment in these areas. In fact, tourists often litter wherever they go and do not bother to clean after themselves in areas they have visited. This may lead to such conditions as dirty roads or clogged sewage systems in these places, which negatively and directly affects local people's living conditions. In terms of indirect effects, I believe that the indigenous people have to sacrifice their natural resources to accommodate tourists' insatiable demands. In several mountainous areas of Vietnam, local people cut down vast areas of forest to make handicrafts or furniture for tourists. These acts can contribute to the environmental deterioration in remote areas. In conclusion, though the economy and societies in remote areas can benefit tremendously from organized tourism, I think that the negative environmental consequences that this situation brings are far more significant. Many people say that in order to fight diseases, the government should invest more money in encouraging a healthy lifestyle instead of spending money on the treatment of people who are already suffering from illness. I advocate this point of view. On one hand, I agree that a large proportion of state budgets should be allocated to activities or campaigns that promote a healthy lifestyle. This is because a lot of diseases nowadays are actually the direct result of people's unhealthy habits. For example, children who eat fast food on a daily basis commonly can suffer from a range of health issues, such as weight problems and obesity. These diseases can be prevented if people are made more aware of the severe consequences of an unhealthy diet. In addition, there are a number of incurable diseases, such as HIV, AIDS, and many forms of cancer. Of course, there are drugs and treatments that can prolong the life of patients suffering from such diseases. But the better solution in this case is obviously trying to prevent these diseases from occurring, instead of trying to cure them, which can often place a heavy burden on patients' families and on society as a whole. On the other hand, the treatment for people who are already ill should also receive adequate funding, due to the fact that some diseases simply cannot be prevented. People living in many tropical or coastal regions, for example, are highly vulnerable to waterborne diseases after a natural disaster such as a tsunami or heavy flooding. Additionally, there are also some illnesses and disorders that are inherited. For instance, if a person suffers from asthma, it is highly likely that his children will also contract respiratory-related diseases, regardless of their diet or lifestyle. These mentioned cases would be almost impossible for people or the government to prevent, and therefore money needs to be spent on the treatment of patients. In conclusion, both promoting a healthy lifestyle and spending money on the treatment of people who are already ill are equally important in the fight against diseases. And each country should develop flexible plans to adapt to different situations. It is now common to see people purchase things, for example cell phones and clothes, and only use them for a short period. A number of factors contribute to this throwaway culture, and this leads to a range of dire consequences, which will be outlined in the essay below. One main reason for the modern throwaway culture is that society is greatly affected by consumerism that encourages the mass production of short-lived goods and the consumption of those goods. The market is also flooded with cheap, single-use products, making it easier to buy things in large quantities and dispose of them even before they become unusable. Another point to consider here is that the purpose for which we buy and use consumer products has changed over the past decades. For example, we no longer wait until our clothes wear out to make new purchases. Instead, our decisions to buy new clothes are heavily influenced by a number of other incentives, be it better appearances or new fashion patterns. This practice inflicts severe damage on the environment. Products constantly ending up in trash bins will cause landfills to become overloaded with massive piles of garbage, only a small proportion of which is disposed of properly to avoid harm to the environment. The rest of the garbage, usually non-recyclable and plastic items, is either buried underground or burnt. This can increase air and land pollution levels, and directly harm the lives of people living in the throwaway society. Furthermore, natural resources that fuel the manufacturing of consumer products can be depleted due to the market's non-stop demand for those commodities. In conclusion, a throwaway culture which wreaks devastation on our environment and depletes our natural resources is formed largely by modern consumerism. There is some debates over whether money that is spent on wildlife protection could be better spent on helping people. Personally, I believe that the protection of wild animals is extremely important and that countries need to invest more money in preserving their native animal species. Firstly, I do not believe that much time or money is actually spent on protecting wild animals. In addition, I believe that a large majority of time that people spend on such issues is voluntary work that people do because they are passionate about saving and helping animals. Additionally, A large amount of money that is spent on these causes is from charity organizations which rely mostly on donations. Therefore, we cannot tell people what charities that they should or should not donate their time and money towards. Secondly, while many people believe that humans are the superior race on planet Earth, others, including myself, feel that all living beings, human and animal, have equal rights to live in peace, and therefore the protection of all animals and their habitats is extremely important. Human activity is no doubt the main cause of most problems wild animals face. The human race has continued to destroy the planet and the natural habitats of wild animals and therefore should be responsible for protecting them so that they can live wild and free, as is their natural state. In conclusion, I firmly believe that it is essential for the health of the planet to maintain a diverse range of animals and wildlife within all ecosystems. I also believe that due to the widespread devastation humans have caused to the natural environment, it is our responsibility to do whatever necessary, regardless of time and money, in order to restore a healthy balance to the planet's natural environments. Some people say that the availability of technology is widening the gap between the rich and the poor, while other people think it is closing the gap. Personally, I believe that the availability of technology has little to do with the gap between the rich and the poor. On one hand, having access to the latest and most advanced technology could bring a number of financial benefits to people. Advancements in technology have brought about large changes in the way people work and do business, and more specifically, in the efficiency of most workplaces. Technology has enhanced the productivity of most businesses around the world, particularly in manufacturing processes, and this has consequently boosted the profits of many companies, and therefore possibly made many wealthy businessmen even richer, thereby increasing the wealth gap. However, with an increase in the availability of many new technologies, it is also becoming more affordable for the large majority of people, which has provided more equal opportunities between people, whether rich or poor. For example, the internet has become extremely widespread throughout the world these days and has provided people of all financial status access to a great deal of information that they can use to their advantage, to help them educate themselves in order to live better lives, and therefore potentially decrease the gap. In conclusion, I do not believe that access to technology really has much impact on the gap between rich and poor people. It is education and the acquisition and application of knowledge that may affect the wealth gap between rich and poor. A large number of media channels these days are too focused on negative news, probably to increase viewership. However, many people often say that they prefer more good news being covered in the media. I personally agree with this idea and will explain my reasoning in my essay below. Bad news dominating the headlines is having an undesirable influence on society. Psychologically, this type of news, unless managed properly, may keep readers in a state of stress and lead them to experience trauma. Stories about ISIS slaughtering innocent citizens, for example, caused massive damage to people's mental states and instilled fear into their minds. Also, frequent exposure to negative news can distort readers' perception of reality. In Vietnam, for example, it seems that members of the media do not focus on keeping the public informed of current events anymore, both locally and globally. Instead, they are trying to publish articles with the primary aim of attracting more viewers and therefore increasing profits. This, unfortunately, shapes readers' outlook on society in a negative way. On the other hand, including good news in the media may have positive effects on the general public. It helps restore our faith in humanity, which inspires moral courses of action to uphold ethical social values. Media stories of good news, as opposed to bad news, can also have a positive psychological implication. Such stories can uplift people to become more optimistic and generally improve both physical and mental health. In conclusion, I believe recounting more stories of good news can positively affect the moral behavior of a group of people and therefore should receive more attention. Although negative news still has an important place in our life, its severity should be realized so that readers can fully reap all the benefits that the media has to offer. In today's world, international tourism is generating enormous financial wealth and has become the primary source of income for numerous countries around the globe. Although many people think this industry is likely to cause tension, my conviction is that international tourism greatly facilitates understanding between people of different cultural background. There are indeed several instances of international travel creating social conflicts. One recent incident happened when Logan Paul, a renowned YouTuber, visited Japan and made fun of Japanese traditions and lifestyles. Such mockery caused tremendous public outrage and prejudice against this young American. Another example is Chinese tourists' inappropriate and selfish behavior during a buffet party in a Thai tourist destination a few years ago. Even though these examples did not speak for the rest of American and Chinese populations, they, as a matter of fact, increased tension between the countries involved. That being said, in most cases, visiting a foreign country can help tourists understand more about local customs and lifestyles. While the modern media, such as TV or newspapers, give people some foreign culture exposure, overseas tourists tend to have more authentic and unique experiences that lead to more profound understanding. This is extremely important because embracing cultural differences is key to establishing and maintaining social relationships in this day and age. In conclusion, international tourism allows overseas visitors to experience different cultures and therefore connects everyone through mutual understanding. In my opinion, we should not merely judge the industry based on a number of situations where conflicts arise from misconduct of only a group of individuals. Increased traffic and lack of housing supply are major concerns in many places. By relocating large businesses, including their factories and employees, to rural areas, these issues can be properly addressed. I personally find this idea justifiable, however, at the same time, some other initiatives should be implemented if we expect to solve traffic and housing problems effectively. Moving businesses and their facilities to the countryside will cause urban population to shrink substantially as successful companies, such as Apple, provide work for thousands of people. This, as a result, will relieve pressure on urban housing supply systems. Another apparent advantage of a decreased population is lower volumes of traffic, which help reduce traffic congestion. In Hanoi, for example, most people travel to work by private vehicles, and this leads to overcrowded roads during the rush hour. If big companies are based in a rural area and offer accommodation to their employees near their workplaces, this will no longer be the case. Nonetheless, I think the mentioned problems are rather complicated and can only be solved completely by the introduction of some other measures. One example involves the development of road systems, because narrow roads largely contribute to traffic jams in major cities. Building wider roads and motorways will allow a greater number of vehicles, both private and public, and therefore reduce traffic congestion. Also, residential areas with small living spaces that can accommodate a growing population should be established in urban centers. In conclusion, I agree that relocating businesses to the countryside is one way to deal with traffic and housing problems. I also believe that we need a combination of this approach and a number of other actions, as listed above, to tackle these problems in a more comprehensive manner. In the present age, people have dramatically changed the way they live, which in turn affects their family relationships. Personally, I think this tendency comes with both positive and negative effects. On the one hand, changing lifestyles bring about various positive impacts on family connections. Firstly, people are paying more attention to their well-being nowadays, and therefore family members tend to go to fitness centers together to lead healthier lifestyles. As a result, spending time working out together will help to bridge the generation gap and promote better communication between family members. To illustrate, when a child takes part in some forms of sport or physical activities with their parents, they will feel more open to share things and seek advice from them. Secondly, thanks to developments in technology, devices such as smartphones, tablets and laptop computers have not only become an indispensable part of our lives but have also helped to make communicating with our friends and families much easier, particularly between those who are separated by long distances. On the other hand, changes in lifestyles also have their downsides when it comes to family relationships. To begin with, the overuse of such technological devices mentioned above can also hurt family relationships. For example, if family members become too immersed in using their devices for individual recreational purposes like checking their social media accounts or browsing their favorite websites, they may neglect their relationships with other family members. Consequently, the amount of quality time that a family spends together is likely to reduce, negatively impacting family relations. Furthermore, these days, people are becoming more and more career-oriented and are subsequently losing the balance between work and family life. In fact, it has become more common that family members are less available at home, even outside of official working time, leading to weakened family interactions. In conclusion, while some changes in lifestyle are advantageous to family relationships, the opposite is true for other changes. In recent years, there has been an increasing number of shopping malls being built, leading to the disappearance of small stores. In my opinion, this change brings about both positive and negative impacts, though the impacts are more negative in the long term. On the one hand, the boom in the number of shopping malls has offered customers a wide range of benefits. First of all, people can now save time shopping thanks to the availability of many types of stores located in the one complex. Shopping malls offer groceries, clothing, and books, alongside food courts and entertainment facilities, all under the one roof. This provides a lot of convenience to people who choose to shop there instead of in separate, smaller stores. Moreover, shopping malls usually offer more discounts and promotions that customers can benefit from when compared to small stores. Furthermore, smaller stores cannot usually provide customers with the added advantage of large, convenient and safe parking facilities that most shopping malls offer. As a result, more and more people are choosing to shop at large shopping malls, leading to a decrease in the number of people purchasing goods from small shops. There are, however, a number of benefits to people and communities that shopping in smaller stores can bring. For example, locally owned, family-run businesses are more likely to provide friendlier and better customer service than larger shopping malls and chain stores. In addition, more locally owned small businesses is better for local economies and communities in the long term by providing more employment, profits and income to local people. In conclusion, the proliferation of shopping malls could have positive effects on customers, but it is likely to drive small local businesses out of business and have a negative impact on local economies, with most profits being taken by non-local businesses. In today's society, where the acquisition of knowledge is the key to better career prospects, having access to tertiary education is a life-changing opportunity for many students. However, Some claim universities should only accept young students with the highest grades, while others believe every student, regardless of age and academic ability, should be given equal educational opportunities. I will discuss both views and state my opinion in the following essay. Firstly, high school students with higher grades are more deserved to attend university, as their grades somewhat imply that they have superior academic skills compared to their peers, be it a better memory, logical thinking, or time management skills. Therefore, such students are more likely to handle the immense workload and pressure at university. Moreover, offering university places to only a limited number of students would result in high-quality undergraduates. For example, most prestigious colleges in Vietnam, whose acceptance rates are low, only recruit the highest scorers in the National University Entrance Exam to make sure that all of the university's resources are available for students who have a higher chance of success. As sensible and beneficial as it is, many people oppose the aforementioned idea, since they believe that only accepting young academically gifted individuals is unfair to older students or those who do not do well at school. Firstly, a student's age or performance at school does not always reflect their potential to succeed at university. Thus, it is unethical to deny access to tertiary education to some students, especially in a world where formal qualifications are of great importance in gaining employment. Also, there is more to college admissions than just academic performance. In fact, many well-known universities in America, like Harvard or Yale, not only accept academically gifted students but also those who are particularly gifted in sport or art. This helps to maintain a diverse community, where each student is valued and rewarded for what they are good at instead of just academic excellence. In conclusion, although only accepting students with high marks is advantageous in some ways, I believe providing university places for all students is more just and beneficial in the long run. Formal schooling for the young is of immense significance for a country's socio-economic development. However, some people are convinced that more money should be allocated for educating illiterate adults. I agree with this view to some extent and will analyze the issue in the following essay. On the one hand, government budgets in many countries, particularly in underdeveloped and developing nations, are limited. Therefore, if more funding is spent on improving adult literacy rates, the education of children and adolescents may suffer as a consequence of less funding. Eventually, maintaining a suitable level and quality of education for both children and illiterate adults may become an impossible task with limited funding, possibly negatively affecting the education of both groups. However, due to a decrease in the number of blue-collar jobs, thanks to automatic processes, a large number of illiterate adults who work in such positions are being made redundant, and therefore increasing the unemployment rate due to their lack of literacy skills when searching for other types of work. This situation not only reduces the standard of living for many people, but is also an underlying motive for a rise in social problems, such as crime, homelessness, and poverty. Providing formal schooling to adults who cannot read or write proves to be a useful measure to reduce the negative consequences that may occur in a society with high levels of adult illiteracy. In conclusion, state funding may not allow an adequate amount of money for the education of both the youth and adults to take effect. However, I still believe that if more money is spent on educating illiterate adults, social welfare in such regions will benefit tremendously. While a number of university students opt to stay with their families when pursuing higher education, some choose to live far away. In this essay, I will analyze both the advantages and disadvantages of the two options. On the one hand, there are several benefits of living with families when going to local universities. One compelling point is that students can minimize their expenditure as rent, utility bills, and renovations are no longer concerns. Consequently, students can set aside financial worries and focus solely on their studies and improve their performance. Nevertheless, staying with families also means that students have to face with strict supervision and a lot of bindings. Living in their parents' house, undergraduates will have to live by the norms and rules that their parents set, which can be restricting and frustrating at times. On the other hand, living away from home for further education can be a lifetime experience for many students. In fact, living far away from home can teach students invaluable lessons that can assist them when joining the future workforce. When living alone, they will have to take care of themselves as well as learn to tolerate and overcome difficult times, which will not only help harness their many skills but also provide them with a sense of freedom. However, living on their own means that students will have to shoulder a lot more duties and responsibilities without the support from their family, ranging from securing their academic result to balancing their budgets. Constantly experiencing such unpleasant situations can put students under great pressure, which may result in stress-related illnesses. In conclusion, though staying with families can relieve students of financial problems, it can as well deprive students of their freedom. In contrast, living in another accommodation, though provides salutary lessons, may cause a lot of discouragement to undergraduates. Many people believe economic development is the only solution to end hunger and poverty, while others think that economic growth should be stopped due to the harmful effects it has on the environment. In this essay, I will examine both arguments and then give my personal opinion. It is true that economic growth has taken a heavy toll on the environment. Firstly, the ever-increasing demand for industrial development has led to the construction of more factories and manufacturing facilities, which has significantly raised the volume of atmospheric greenhouse gases, which are considered to be the main culprit behind global warming. Furthermore, human activities, such as clearing forests for farming, are directly responsible for the loss of natural habitats for many wild plants and animals, pushing these species to the verge of extinction. This, together with the unsustainable exploitation of natural resources, poses serious threats to the survival of mankind, especially with today's rapidly increasing population. However, trying to stop the economy from developing, due to the drawbacks, is not a rational approach, for economic growth is still the most effective measure to tackle poverty and hunger. A healthy economy will create more employment opportunities for those who come from underprivileged backgrounds, and thus ensure stable income for these people. Therefore, they will be able to earn enough money to cover basic living expenses. Besides this, economic growth also has a crucial role to play in the fight against hunger. With a more generous budget to invest in agricultural development, for example, governments can invest in modern machinery to automate the labor-intensive processes of growing and harvesting crops. Such a boost in productivity will increase food production and eventually put an end to hunger. In conclusion, it is understandable why many people believe that economic growth should be stopped to protect our environment. However, I think the government should not rely on such a desperate measure because the benefits brought about by economic growth, not only in the fight against poverty and hunger, are far more significant than the drawbacks. It is true that in some cities, the residents do have the freedom to design their homes or office buildings in their own way because there are limited government regulations on how it should be done. Although some clear benefits of such a trend can be seen, they are, in my view, eclipsed by the considerable drawbacks. On the one hand, there are many benefits of having less oversight on building design. The first advantage is that it gives scope for creativity. This allows designers or house owners to be more open to new ideas and to freely experiment with new materials and designs, which may eventually lead to the arrival of more innovative and unique buildings. Secondly, the freedom of construction design gives owners an opportunity to fulfill their personal preferences, which may vary significantly from person to person. While some may be passionate about a traditional design, others might enjoy a more modern perspective. A building should not be considered a mere shelter but a place where its owner feels a sense of satisfaction and contentment as well. As such, in such circumstances, a loose regulation on the design and construction of buildings is obviously advantageous. On the other hand, I believe that the disadvantages of this trend are more significant. Firstly, houses and other buildings which are built without any strict or uniform building codes may be vulnerable to serious damage, especially due to natural disasters. A typical example of this are houses in parts of central Vietnam, where there are few regulations from the government on their construction. Due to this lack of government control, whenever a fierce storm strikes the region, thousands of houses lose their roofs, and even worse, are sometimes completely collapsed, leading to both losses of lives and property. Secondly, without strict control on building design, the uniformity of a city can be distorted. This may, in turn, damage the look of the city since the consistency in building design is often accompanied by beauty. In conclusion, although there are many positive effects of allowing people to freely design their homes or other buildings, it seems to me that these advantages are overshadowed by the drawbacks. Some people believe that there are no compelling reasons for us to protect animal species from extinction as it occurs naturally. I personally disagree with this conviction and will support my argument in the essay below. It is true that millions of years ago, many ancient species of animals, such as dinosaurs, were wiped out due to a gradual shift in climate and changing sea levels, according to some hypotheses. However, these environmental factors are not the primary contributor to the disappearance of certain species nowadays. Industrial activities have been devastating the natural habitats of wildlife and disturbing the food chain, causing the mass extinction of countless species. The increased demand for goods made from animals' products, such as skins and horns, also leads to the rampant poaching of wild, endangered animals, rhinos for instance. In this regard, humans are held accountable and should do what is needed to rectify the situation. Other justifications for saving wild animals involve the significant roles that they play in not only the balance of the ecosystem but also our lives. Everything in nature is connected, and if one species becomes extinct, many other animals and even plants will suffer as the food chain is disrupted. Wild animals also have great aesthetic and socio-cultural values. They contribute to our rich biodiversity that makes this planet a beautiful place. In numerous places around the world, many types of animals play an important role in different cultures. For example, in some religions, cows are revered and worshipped as gods. The disappearance of many animal species does not always occur as a natural process but as a consequence of our doings. It is our obligation to help preserve wild animals because their extinction will have a severe influence on many important aspects of our lives. With the internet having a huge impact on our shopping, work and communication, we can now live without any face-to-face interaction with other people. Whilst making modern life more convenient in some ways, this situation is a negative trend in the long run. In this day and age, we can literally stay at home and have almost anything delivered to our homes, as most consumer goods are widely available for online purchase. We also have more opportunities in terms of employment because many applications like Skype or Google Hangouts allow employees to work from home. Members of an organization nowadays rely on email and other online platforms to maintain effective communication and ensure their businesses operate smoothly. When it comes to personal relationships, we use Facebook to connect and stay in touch with friends and relatives. The internet, without doubt, enhances our shopping experiences, makes our workplaces more streamlined and efficient, and facilitates our communication with others. However, we are faced with a foreseeable and unfortunate consequence due to our reliance on such technology. We are losing direct interactions that are deemed extremely important in this technological era. Children hardly spend time talking to their parents because they are too engrossed in media hype on Facebook. It is common to see both young and old people with their eyes glued to their phones instead of having conversations like they did before the advent of smart devices. This is leading us toward a society where people will turn to favoring virtual interactions and undervaluing real-life relationships. The influence of the internet on many aspects of our lives is remarkable. However, the benefits it offers do not justify the fact that it is inflicting severe damage on our relationships, which can only flourish on the basis of true communication. Both teachers and parents play a significant role in a child's upbringing. In this essay, I will discuss why I disagree that teachers are a greater influence on the intelligence and social development of children than their parents. The first few years of a child's life are spent almost entirely in the company of their parental figures. These years are critical in the social development of a child, as they contain their first attempts to communicate with other people in order to receive the care and attention necessary for survival. Most school children start their education between the ages of 4 to 7 years. Therefore, they have already experienced a considerable amount of parental influence before teachers are even introduced to them. Other significant factors in the intelligence and social development of a child are the socioeconomic circumstances that they are brought up in, the quality of a child's social life, schooling and health are all socioeconomic factors that heavily influence a child. These factors are a direct consequence of the circumstances brought about by the child's parents. Better teachers will endow a child with greater intelligence and social skills. However, better teachers are, on average, found at better schools. The attendance of a child at a good school is usually the consequence of a decision made by their parents. I believe that parents are a far greater influence on the intelligence and social development of children than teachers because, firstly, the early developmental years of a child's life are almost entirely influenced by the company of their parents, and, secondly, because the socioeconomic factors of a child's life are usually a direct consequence of the factors which affect their parents. It is believed that countries which have high unemployment rates should only offer primary education, and extending secondary education to students who are not likely to find work in the future is a hopeless attempt. I personally consider this to be a flawed argument, and I will explain my reasoning in the essay below. Important as it is to a child's overall development, primary education does not provide any necessary work skills. The fundamental aim of this early stage of education is simply to lay a basis for a student's cognitive development through the learning of language, art, and basic science. People who complete this level of education are not equipped with the necessary skills and knowledge to enter the workforce. While those people may find blue-collar employment, it is unlikely that they can get a decent job. Therefore, if a country with a high unemployment level only offers primary education to the majority of students, the outcome will not be worthwhile. Furthermore, I would argue that investing in secondary schooling systems and delivering secondary education to young students are of greater importance when it comes to improving the overall employment rate of a country. In fact, nowadays, many middle and high schools hire a large number of secondary education degree holders who work better with younger age groups and are more familiar with the subjects taught at this level of education. There are also many other types of non-academic careers, such as in the beauty and entertainment industries, that only require a secondary education degree. Last but not least, I believe that we should not restrict secondary education to a certain group of students who are deemed eligible, because everyone deserves an equal opportunity to access education. In conclusion, I disagree that providing only primary education is the best course of action to be adopted in the context of a nation with a high rate of unemployment. Secondary education, on the other hand, is a major contributor to combating unemployment. I also believe that we should not dispense secondary education to only a select number of students, as everyone has the right to be educated. It is said that the most important thing about being wealthy is that it allows people to help others. Although having a great deal of money does give the rich a chance to lend a helping hand to the less fortunate, I believe that it is not their responsibility. On the one hand, becoming wealthy can enable people to ease the burdens of those in need. This is because wealthy people are generally less concerned about their finances, and instead are more open to supporting others. A great example of this is that in almost all charitable organizations, their founders or philanthropists tend to be millionaires, or even billionaires, who are willing to donate a great deal of their fortune to assist individuals who need help. However, despite the undeniable positive social impacts created by helping people, being rich means a lot more than philanthropy. In order to become the upper class in society, most people have to overcome countless difficulties and try very hard to gain their wealth. Therefore, when they become rich, it is reasonable that such individuals would want to enjoy their life to make up for those tiring days of hard work. For example, there are numerous things that wealthy people can do, such as traveling around the world, dining in luxurious restaurants, or even purchasing jewelry or houses. Such activities help people to be satisfied with themselves and prove that their hard work does pay off. To sum up, I would argue that the most important thing about being rich is that it enables people to enjoy more things in life. Although helping others is socially beneficial, it should be optional. Many people consider overpopulation as the main cause of most problems in the world. From my point of view, while many of the world's issues are caused by overpopulation, I believe that most problems that people are facing already existed before the world's population explosion. It is a proven fact that many problems exist due to overpopulation. Firstly, overpopulation puts a strain on the planet's natural resources. As people need fuel for their cars, an increasing number of people has increased the demand for fossil fuels, such as oil and gas. These resources are unrenewable, and therefore overpopulation will inevitably lead to the depletion of such resources quicker, potentially causing an energy crisis. Secondly, a dense population means a decline in the quality of people's lives. Life in big cities, such as Beijing, is a good example of this, as there is not enough space to accommodate everyone, with lower-class families having to live in very cramped housing. On the other hand, many issues are inherent in human society, regardless of population size. War, for example, has existed since humans lived in tribes with only a small number of people. Nevertheless, war brings strife and destruction to societies. In addition, discrimination based on race, gender and social standing has plagued millions of individuals, even though these issues are unrelated to the size of the population. Therefore, it is inaccurate to say that overpopulation is the main culprit behind most of mankind's problems. In conclusion, overpopulation can cause many problems to society and individuals. However, there are other factors involved as well. Many teachers hold the view that international exchange programs would bring benefits to all teenage school students. In my opinion, although such programs can be disadvantageous to students to a certain extent, I believe that the advantages are still more significant. To begin with, the biggest difficulty for students when attending an exchange program is the financial burden on their families. More specifically, many parents whose income is at a low or average level may struggle to cover tuition fees and daily living expenses for their children, especially when students study in a developed country. To make matter worse, students who travel to another country through an educational exchange program would not receive the medical coverage like the local people. Therefore, if an exchange student happens to encounter a serious health problem during their stay, it will cost their family a fortune to cover the cost of healthcare services and medications in a foreign country. However, there are numerous benefits that can be gained from international student exchange programs. Firstly, studying abroad allows students to significantly improve their foreign language skills. In fact, when studying in a new country, students will have the perfect opportunity to engage in conversations with their classmates and teachers in both academic and general contexts on a daily basis, which is the perfect condition for them to improve their language skills. Furthermore, studying in a developed country often gives students access to more modern and effective facilities and methods of learning. Finally, although studying abroad can be costly, all international students have equal opportunities to apply for scholarships and financial aid from the host country to ease such financial burdens. In conclusion, though financial problems may cause some difficulties for students and their families when participating in international exchange programs, the positive aspects that such programs bring to students are well worth the cost. Environmental issues have become an increasing concern among individuals and governments in the modern world. Some people reject the role of individuals and argue that environmental protection can only be achieved by the governments and big businesses. I personally consider this to be a flawed argument, and I will explain my reasoning in the following essay. In reality, governments and corporations take responsibility for protecting the environment. Governments could enact laws to reduce many environmental problems, while large companies are capable of investing large amounts of money in sustainable development goals. However, all the policies and campaigns will show no effect without the active cooperation of residents. In Vietnam, although the government tries to raise the public's awareness of environmental issues and even imposes heavy fines on those who violate environmental laws, many beaches and the surrounding ecosystems have been badly polluted by the sheer number of visitors. Therefore, I believe that there needs to be more action taken from individuals in such situations. Furthermore, all the combined actions of all people will have a profound impact on the bigger picture. Researchers found that an individual will reduce greenhouse gas emissions by around 1,500 pounds per year if he leaves his car at home 2 days a week. Another prime example is in waste management processes. While residents can spend just a few minutes separating their biodegradable and non-biodegradable waste, it takes days for waste recycling plants to achieve the same task. In conclusion, I disagree with the opinion that the environmental issues can only be reduced by governments and large enterprises because individuals also need to make a significant contribution to the process of keeping the planet clean. In other words, this matter can only be dealt with by simultaneous participation of governments, companies, and residents. Nowadays, travelers instead of local residents often visit museums in historical areas. There are some underlying reasons for this, and some feasible solutions would be analyzed to address the problem in the essay below. This issue might be attributable to two main reasons. To begin with, since museums and historical places are usually poorly conserved or refurbished due to a low budget for operation, the locals are often too familiar with these areas. For example, there has been no appearance of new historical weapons and war relics for many years in the Air Defense Museum in Hanoi, and thus there are nothing new for local inhabitants to discover. Furthermore, entrance tickets at some historical sites are expensive for the local people to afford. For instance, most residents in Dien Bien, a province in northwestern Vietnam, are struggling to make ends meet, let alone to spend money on visiting some famous historical attractions there. Some practical solutions are suggested to mitigate the problem. Firstly, the local authorities should allocate financial resources for maintaining and refreshing the exhibits regularly in museums and historical places. In War Remnants Museum in Ho Chi Minh City, Vietnam, historical pictures and newspapers about Vietnam War are monthly updated, resulting in more local people being interested in these documentaries. Secondly, the local authorities should allow local residents to visit museums and historical areas for free in certain days of a year, without worrying about additional expenditures. These individuals will pay more visits to historical sites in order to broaden their knowledge about their hometowns. In conclusion, I have presented several factors as well as tried to put forward some plausible measures to mitigate the problem in the above-mentioned arguments. In recent times, there has been a number of changes within the structure of families and the roles that family members play. This essay will discuss those changes and the impacts these trends are having on families. Firstly, in a lot of countries, many people are now choosing to live in a nuclear family structure, where only parents and children live together, and grandparents live separately. In the past, however, it was quite common in many countries for 3 or even 4 generations of a family to all live under the one roof. There has also been a shift in the roles that various family members play. For example, in the past, it was commonplace for men to have to work to provide for their families, and women to stay at home to cook, clean, and raise the children. However, many women nowadays are choosing to work instead, while some fathers stay at home to help out with family and household duties. These changes can bring about both positive and negative effects. Nuclear family structures allow more freedom to parents who no longer want to live in their hometown in order to pursue their career. Many people need to live in large cities these days to find work. However, many older, retired people want to remain living in their hometown, though. One disadvantage of the nuclear family is that grandparents may not be available to help raise and care for grandchildren. In terms of the changing roles, women have greatly benefited from the opportunity to pursue a career and become the breadwinner of the family, instead of being a housewife. One downside of this trend, though, might be that some people would argue that women are better at domestic duties than stay-at-home dads. In conclusion, I believe there are both positive and negative effects from these changes, though the impacts on each individual family will be different. These days, professional athletes can earn a great deal of money as sports have become a lucrative business. Furthermore, this business is supported by many companies in various ways, including sponsorships and so forth. From my perspective, this is more of a positive development. To begin with, paying a big amount of money to sports people can be considered beneficial to sports. When these people find their career rewarding enough in terms of earnings, they are more likely to have greater motivation to devote hard work and time to their training. As a result, these athletes are able to enhance their performance in competition and gain more medals for themselves or for their own country. In Brazil, sports have become an industry that receives huge investments from companies like Wilkes and Banco. Brazilian footballers are paid millions of dollars a year just to bring victory to their country. Explaining why this nation has won so many championships. It is also advantageous for sports when businesses pour a lot of money and support into the industry. Since Hagel, a prosperous business group in Vietnam, allocated billions of Vietnam dong to the construction of a sports institute to provide young football players with professional training. The Vietnamese national football team has become much stronger. Being well trained, they now have a better chance of winning more championships and awards than their predecessors. Other companies in Vietnam also use images of popular sports idols in advertisements on social media for another purpose, aiming at all walks of life. They inspire people to have a greater passion for sports, potentially increasing the number of talented athletes. In conclusion, sport can benefit a great deal from becoming a business, as it will help to improve the popularity of playing sport and leading a healthy lifestyle. While professional athletes will have more financial incentives to improve their performance. People these days do not choose cycling to travel, even though cycling is one of the few forms of transport that does not damage the environment. In this essay, I will examine a number of reasons why cycling is becoming less popular and suggest several ways to encourage people to cycle. One main explanation for people losing interest in cycling is due to the need for a more efficient mode of travel. Given the fact that people do not want to spend too much time and effort while commuting, motor vehicles tend to be a more suitable and preferred choice. Another reason is that the majority of people are becoming less environmentally conscious and more concerned about their own interests. Many people, although fully aware of how beneficial cycling is to the environment, still choose to use other means of transport that are harmful to the surroundings but more convenient for their lives. The authorities can attempt to promote the use of bicycles through a number of measures. Firstly, city councils can provide more cycling lanes throughout towns and cities so it will be safer and more convenient to travel by bicycle. In Amsterdam, for example, there is more space for cycling than for cars, which leads to a large proportion of the city's population using bicycles as their main form of travel. Furthermore, levying higher taxes on other types of vehicles, together with raising social awareness of environmental protection, may help increase the likelihood of people turning to cycling. In conclusion, most people tend to use motor vehicles instead of bicycles owing to the demand for efficient travel and the lack of environmental consciousness. The government is largely responsible for increasing the use of bicycles through the construction of more cycling zones and the imposition of heavier taxes on other forms of transport. In this day and age, with cheaper and more accessible computer technology, many people are opting to work and study from home. In my opinion, this is a positive development due to several reasons. To begin with, there are a huge number of benefits for both workers and students choosing this method of work and study. Firstly, people do not need to spend time traveling to school or their workplace, as they can now easily access the internet at home to complete their work. As a result, people can not only save time but also minimize the risks and costs of using transport on a daily basis to commute. On top of that, Working from home gives people a chance to manage their work and leisure time more effectively. For instance, while people are required to sit in front of a computer and crunch numbers every day from 9 to 5, people who work from home can easily manage their schedule better to suit their needs in order to complete their work in a better state of mind. In addition to benefits that remote work and study brings to individuals, this trend also brings about positive outcomes for schools and businesses. In fact, schools and businesses could save a lot of money that would otherwise be allocated to the construction and maintenance of buildings and facilities. Instead, that money could be invested in enhancing other things, such as updating study programs or other facilities that allow staff and students to work more effectively, and help to build up the reputation of those institutes as well. In conclusion, I hold a firm belief that working and studying from home is an advantageous trend as it generates many merits for all sides involved. People have different views about whether money should be spent on public transport or on other more important issues. While faster means of public transport would be a positive measure, I would argue that further investment in other priorities should be made first. On the one hand, it could be argued that providing citizens with faster forms of public transportation has brought about certain benefits. Firstly, faster forms of transport are said to allow people, particularly commuters, to reduce traveling time to and from work. As a result, people will have more leisure time, and this will lead to an increase in their work productivity. Secondly, by adopting this method, people are less likely to be packed and cramped in hot buses. They will not need to rush to get to work on time or get up so early in order to get a seat on a bus. And therefore, they will have more time to prepare before going to work or school, or to enjoy their breakfast with their family. However, I believe that spending money on other vital aspects is more important. One of the most pressing concerns is environmental pollution. Despite the convenience that public transportation brings to commuters, more and more vehicles are being used each year, and exhaust fumes emitted from those vehicles have exerted a detrimental effect on the atmosphere in most large cities. As a result, people are more susceptible to developing respiratory diseases and other kinds of health problems. Another significant issue is the increasing cost of living, which leaves many people struggling to cope with basic daily needs. If such situations are left untreated, this may lead to a decrease in economic growth, amongst other problems. In conclusion, despite the advantages of improving the speed of public transport, I am convinced that it is better to spend money on more urgent issues, such as the environment and living costs. It is believed by some that mainstream media channels focus most of their attention on the problems and urgent issues in society, rather than on positive news, and this trend is harmful to people. I partly agree with this idea because such a tendency involves both positive and negative impacts. On the one hand, a higher frequency of news stories focusing on negative aspects in society is not a good thing, and can have detrimental effects on people's mental state. For example, news about terrorism and war has become so common in the media that some people may hesitate to travel abroad in fear of suffering from a terrorist attack. Secondly, it can also lead people to have a misunderstanding about many aspects within society, which should be given greater respect and recognition. For example, many tabloids, such as Dispatch of Korea or 14 Channel of Vietnam, have always reported on the scandals of celebrities, which can mislead the public into believing in the flaws of showbiz, whereas in reality, it is an industry where many people have made many great contributions to society. On the other hand, the focus on negative issues rather than positive developments is legitimate to some extent. Firstly, the media can be seen as an effective way to spread news to even the most remote places, and this can help to bring people together in order to solve serious problems. The more people that are informed about issues, the sooner they can be solved. Secondly, it can help to raise awareness amongst citizens. The more negative stories appear in the media, the higher chance that people will become aware of it and take action towards a solution. For instance, news coverage about cancer has now become a common topic in the media, and as a result, a large amount of people have switched to a healthier lifestyle. In conclusion, the media has good reason to report on all issues, although the accompanying negative impacts need to be considered. Nowadays, most people fail to achieve the ideal work-life balance. This essay will discuss some effects and also suggest ways to address this problem. This issue is often associated with some unwanted consequences. Firstly, having an unhealthy work-life balance can have a negative effect on people's health since these individuals tend to sacrifice their daily physical activities and recreational activities to work. This in the long term will lead to an increased level of stress and stress-related illness. Secondly, work-life imbalance can also give rise to growing problems with parenting. The materialistic society of today drives many parents to becoming workaholics, which lead them to spending less time taking care of their children. Without adequate supervision from parents, children can easily go on the wrong track. Therefore, some practical solutions are suggested to mitigate the problem. One viable step is that people need to consider and see what makes them happy and then set priorities in life. When they come home from work, they must learn to switch the office button off. By doing so, they will have more time to enjoy leisure activities and refresh themselves. Furthermore, people should plan a flexible schedule for their life. For example, some days they might focus more on work, while others might have more time and energy to pursue their hobbies or relax with their loved ones. This will enable them to enjoy every part of their life. In conclusion, work-life imbalance can lead to some harmful impacts on people's health and family, and some steps should be taken into account to mitigate this problem. While some people tend to think that playing sport is simply an activity people do for leisure, others would argue that it has a significant role to play within society. Personally, I believe that sport does have an important function in society, but can also simply be enjoyed as a leisure activity by people. On the one hand, nobody can deny that sport is a great leisure activity. Millions of people all around the world participate in sporting activities every day simply because of the sense of well-being and relaxation that it brings them. People play sport for numerous reasons, including wanting to get fit or stay in shape, as a way to relax and take their mind off the stresses of daily life, and as a way to socialize and spend time with friends. These reasons would indicate that people get involved in sporting activities as a form of leisure. However, even though most people play sport for the personal benefits, it does also serve a number of usual functions within society. Firstly, sport creates healthier societies. People who play sport are known to be happier and healthier, and less prone to certain mental and physical sicknesses, which reduces the burdens on healthcare systems. Secondly, sport brings people together and creates a sense of unity within societies. This can be witnessed when complete strangers join together to cheer on and support their country's football team. Finally, sport teaches people many important life skills and lessons which help people to function more effectively within their society, making it a better place to live. In conclusion, even though people may only participate in sport for the purpose of leisure, it does also bring a number of important benefits to society, says WEL. While some people prefer to go straight to university after graduating from high school, others choose to take a gap year in order to travel or work. From my point of view, The advantages of taking some time off after leaving high school far outweigh any disadvantages that this trend may bring. On the one hand, pursuing tertiary education immediately after finishing high school does have some disadvantages. Firstly, some people know exactly what career path they wish to follow and are highly motivated to undertake the necessary steps needed to achieve their dreams. Taking a gap year could serve as a waste of time and money for such people, and may even cause some young people to lose sight of their previous goals. Secondly, some young people may find earning money while working to be much more appealing than going back to study. This could detract them from wanting to pursue further education, which could have significant disadvantages in the long run. On the other hand, taking time off from studying to travel or work has countless benefits for young people. Although some high school graduates know exactly what they want to do in life, I believe that most young people have very little idea. This is largely due to the fact that kids these days live very sheltered lives and do not know much about how the real world actually functions. Taking a gap year is going to allow them to get some real-life experience and broaden their horizons about their possible future career. Furthermore, kids these days are put through 12 years of schooling, which can be exhausting for many. Taking a break to travel or work will help to prepare them for further education. In conclusion, I believe that taking time off to travel or work before attending university would be highly beneficial to most young people today.